Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell. This is AutoDidactic channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And of course, AutoDidactic means to be self-educated. And we need to be self-educated because if we're not, the only choice we have left is to believe what other people tell us. And today we are going to have a look at some photos from Moscow in 1883 and 1884. So let's get into this. Okay, so here we go. This shot here is Moscow around 1883, 84. And as you can see, we have a huge cityscape with these amazing cathedrals or basilicas, cathedral type buildings. And we see a lot of these in Russia, Moscow, these type of amazing sound amplifying structures. And now, obviously, Moscow is an old city, so some of these are dated back, well, some of the buildings are dated back to the 1300s. And so, that I'm not saying that any of these were built recently, but these pictures I do find are quite interesting because, for starters, we've got this big dirt wall along the front here, this road that's clearly been built up. And you can see that these houses or these buildings behind it go down. So I'm wondering why that's there. And of course, what we're told, Greco-Romano architecture in Russia, which would have been, basically Tartaria, right? And of course, we also have this ironwork, wrought iron that we see in all the old world cities, very ornate, and this stuff doesn't rust. It's a different type of iron than we use today, and of course, they tell us they've lost a recipe to make it anymore. Another shot now, here we see a man-made canal. Okay, these are in all the old world cities. And when I look for this canal, when it was built, I'm really only getting that they're talking about one that was built in World War II, which clearly isn't this canal because we're looking at photos from the 1880s. So as far as I've found so far, and I haven't done a really deep dig on it, there's no easily accessible information on who built this canal here, this old world canal. But anyway, I digress. And so here we have again a massive cityscape. I mean, you can see the amount of temple type structures just everywhere, right? And look at this tower in the background in the 1880s in Moscow. And at this point, they say that the population was around 450,000 people. And, that's a lot of people, but this is a hugely built out city. It looks like it's made for millions. Here's another shot of the wrought iron, the raised, okay, so that looks like it's the raised edge of the canal, the original canal levels down here. Got this raised road again, and again, these houses they go lower than this road. This is interesting. We see this a lot. I mean, that actually looks like a drawing, doesn't it? Gosh. But these, wooden, crappily made structures next to these old world masonry structures. And so clearly this was built later onto the side of this, but we see this a lot in Australia and the US, and that doesn't mean so much here in Russia because, like I said, there is a history, obviously, of buildings being here, built back in the 1300s, but then we have the question of how are they building towers like this in the 12 and 1300s and like this with all these domes. And they, I mean, you can see the size of them. They are huge, gigantic even, compared to these buildings in the front. And why are they building Greco-Roman buildings? Another, picture showing all the amazing, temple tops, domes, antennas, antiquitech, and also this juxtaposition. We've got this masonry, masonry canal, and this would be a massive structure, massive engineering undertaking. And what do we have here but just bits of wood tied together and floating on the water? That's their dock. right? There's clearly, roads and stairs coming down here. So this was built as an access point originally, and this is all that these people can do. But we're supposed to believe that, 600, 700, 100 years prior to this date, they were building these. With horse and cart and chisel tools. Another, just to show you the type of buildings that are here, and we see these all around the realm. Massive, massive buildings built, hundreds of years ago by people with no technology. And again, the roads, this doesn't even look like it's been cleaned out properly, and chimneys everywhere. This is Russia, this is Moscow, this is cold. Why would they be building these massive buildings if the only heating source they had were fireplaces, which are not very efficient at heating, large areas? You'd be much better off with a small house and a fireplace might work there. But if you were going to build something this big, with, all the, knowledge and architectural engineering and, that you would need to know, you would at least think that you would think about heating it, right? Or cooling it in a hotter country, but we don't see any evidence of that. So we still don't know exactly what fireplaces were. There's many theories out there, but I won't touch on it this time. And again, here we look like we've got a bit of a mud-flooded building. Maybe this window's right on the ground, but also you can see this is 1, 2, 3, 4 stories by the looks of it, right? And it's not even 2 levels, just under 2 levels on this building. So we see this a lot too, different sized buildings. Again, amazing architecture. This does look like it's a bit flooded, doesn't it? That looks like it should be on the top of a cathedral somewhere. And here we have an amazing cathedral and the double-headed eagle sitting atop a ball, which may or may not be filled with mercury. And of course, we, theorize, or I theorize, that these were free energy devices and also frequency devices. So they were drawing down, the naturally occurring energy that's all around us, ethereal or etheric energy. Okay, so here, this shot. So you can see this looks like there's been an inundation of mud or some kind of flow coming in here. Okay, this is supposed to be the obviously it looks like the outskirts kind of the city, but a city that's been here for, at least 1,000 years. And look at it, it's just still dirt tracks, it's all over the place, and it's right next to a river. You think they would have done a bit more work. And here, of course, we have the level of, their building, what they could build, this twig fence. But we're supposed to believe that all this was built prior to this. And again, a wooden fence here, surrounding the masonry buildings, and this in the background, right? Now, I'm not sure if this is part of the natural canal, but, this could have been, it's hard to tell from this, but this could be a natural, an old world, not natural, but an old world canal that was filled in, right, with whatever did this to the landscape. Mud flow, mud flood. And then when they say that they built the canal in World War II, they probably just dug this out or another one. Because we see that a lot, or at least evidence of that, all around the world, including the Suez Canal. The cannon, the cannon, the cannon. Look at this. I mean, look at the size of this. This is cast iron. I mean, why would you make it so ornate? I mean, look at even the spokes on the wheel here. If this was just a cannon for functioning for war, why go to the effort? Because that's a lot more effort to, to cover it in art like this. These balls, I mean, we can't see the end of this cannon, but it looks like, oh, okay, so these balls, yep, all right, they would fit in it. So what are these for? Don't know. So what are cannonballs? You can see this has got an edge on it, like it looks like, I don't know, what is that, like a welding edge where they've joined 2 halves when they were making it. See one here, you kind of see one there. So I'm not sure, what are cannons and what are cannonballs? We don't know, but look at the size of this. And whatever it is, it wasn't built for people our size, because how would you move this? You know, the wheels are iron. They're cast iron. This one too. So what were these things really? Obviously, they needed to be made of iron, right? Old world architecture everywhere, fully built out. And again, we get these different sized doors, right? This one's a bit lower. This one's much bigger. And dirt roads. Again, dirt roads. And another thing I want to mention, I said before, the population of Moscow in the 1880s was around, 4 to 450,000 people. So where are they all? If I'll point it out, but there are a lot of these photos. There's no people around, and of course, we people love to say, oh, it's early morning or it's evening or something, but you can see there's no shadows being cast here. A little one there. So this is pretty much midday. There's no one here. Yet we have these massive buildings. This looking like it could be mud flooded with all these small half windows on the ground. And yeah, just a vacant city in the 1880s. This is the Kremlin. So I mean, look at this again, right? Look at these amazing buildings. Unfortunately, the pixels aren't too great on this picture, but I mean, just look at this. This was all built, they're saying way, way before any kind of power tool, clearly. When these photos were taken, we still hadn't had the first drill, I'm pretty sure. I think it was, yeah, well, the first plug-in power drill was the 1920s, was it, or 30s? But, even pneumatic stuff and they hardly even had the steam shovel back in the 1880s. But look what they were constructing, hundreds of years prior. With what technology? And that's not to, we've got to think about, the engineering, the structural design, who designed all this, made sure it didn't fall over, because this has been standing for, almost 1,000 years in the current narrative. And of course, dirt roads. And this bridge we see these everywhere, these stone bridges. Over engineering. If this is built for people who are on a horse and cart or foot, this is really over engineered, isn't it? Again, more amazing structures. Looks like, could be cobblestone. It's not very flat though, is it, this road? A few holes in it. So not to the same standard as this stuff that's been standing for, at least 500-600 years. Looks like there was some old doors or something here. Maybe this is part of the patterning. But look, Antiquitech antennas. They love to tell us these are Christian crosses, but, you can see they're not. And most of these have a half moon under them, right? Which is, we're given the cross as Christian and the moon as Islamic. So what do you think they did, right? Cut the crosses off half of them, took the moons off the other ones. And then they suddenly become Christian or Islamic. We've got some crosses, onion domes, but this was all made back when we're told, humans were living in the mud and had no tech. Of course, the double-headed eagle up here on the top. And this clock face does not really, it's hard to see, but to me, it looks added. You can see there's an edge all the way around it. It looks like it's a bit too big. I don't know if that's what it's over, but on this one, you can see it's not part of the building. It's set off. So it looks like they were put on afterwards, right? Don't know what they covered up, but they were basically bringing in time, right? So we can all be at our job on time. Belfries with bells in them, so they're bellfuls. Right, got the bells. We see these belfries everywhere, but most of them are empty. And some Antiquitech on top. You see these look very cross-like, the double cross, and of course down here we've got pictures of Jesus, and in the background the double eagle. Nice juxtaposition. But these again, these are just buildings. These are just buildings with these, whatever they are, right? Landing points for airships. Who knows? But these aren't temples. These are just buildings with belfries on them. But they're trying to tell us this is a church. Okay, so is this the Kremlin? I think it is, but you can see this again, walled city, the whole way around. Oh, the old Antiquitech lamps, 1880s. You know, I doubt that they're going to say there was electricity here because it's very, very new. I doubt they're going to say these are electric because, electricity would have been very new at this point. So gas, but again, where are the gas bottles? Where are the gas pipes? How are these running? We're sort of told this story of the candles and people used to go and light them every evening and then they turn into gas. But how do they turn into gas? When did they put the piping in? And if they did, how did they have that knowledge prior? So it messes up the whole timeline. But of course, this whole wall, walled city, castle city, same as we see everywhere. And not to mention all these towers everywhere. I mean, look at the size of this building compared to these ones with these little windows. I mean, it's twice the size. Fairy tale castles, if you like. Look at this. Double-headed eagle again. But look at all these, antenna type things around here. Belfry, can't see if there's a bell in there. Look at this. This looks like it is a bit low in the ground. I mean, look, there's even like a bridge here almost. So did that used to go over a gap? Because this wall, right? And here it looks like this used to be a canal maybe, or at least a valley of some kind. And this now we've filled up to here, so I don't know. Is this mud floodage? Because this does look, to me, looks buried. Doesn't look quite level. It's probably just the fall off there, but what do you think? Amazing build out, 1883 and 1884. And again, this is looking like a city. You can see this is a canal, a city that's been inundated because this is all filled in, right? This looks like, oops, this is all land, dirt. See, they've got the steps coming down here like we saw before. You see them where they have their little, rickety docks for their boats. But this is all dirt and they've got a few launching bits at the end. So at some point, this canal has been inundated. Here we have the old ladder lean. That's a tall ladder, man. Look at that thing. And here again, like this old world brick masonry building with this wooden bit hanging off the end of it. So this is what they'd be able to build in the 1880s, not this. And again, where are the people? They say, 400 and 4 to 450,000 people. Where there's no one in this photo. And we can see the size of this wall, the walled city. Obviously around, the Kremlin, Red Square, and that we've got a bigger wall. Then we've got the canal here, but you can see there's this wall here in the foreground. Looks like it's been smashed up a bit by something. And this, again, looking buried, right? It's a very short tower. But I mean, just look at all these amazing cathedrals and basilicas or whatever they've been renamed as. Built, by horse and cart, right? By people sitting in the mud. Again, another huge cityscape. And again, I think, this city, you can see how huge it is and completely built out, right? Including canals, lights, all the stuff. And it looks like it's built for a lot more people than 500,000 or under. Buildings looking not level. You can see the height of this wall compared to this. Around the corner, we've got these gas lights. They're running, we've got the arches. Very, these similar themes and architectural attributes that we see in all the old world buildings, the pillars, the arched windows, the facading, the portico feature. It's everywhere. And of course, the not levelness, the mud flood look to them. And again, this street looks like it's, some kind of stone or something, but it's not old world cobblestone. It doesn't look well done, does it? And clearly it would have to have been done after this building because it's on top of this angle. Again, just a massive, huge building, and there's no one here. No one here. Is that a person? No, that's a shadow, I think. And again, look at this. There's hardly any shadows. So the middle of the day, right? This giant, ridiculous building, and no one here. Same old thing. It looks like there might be some couple of people here, and that's it. And look at this building. It's dwarfing this basilica. Is that St. Basil's? I don't know. If it is, they've painted the onions after this, but I mean, look at the size of this thing and the symmetry. They're so symmetrical the way they're done. And sitting up on a hill, as we see all the time, up on a ridge, that is where they tend to put, what we call citadels, I guess, or that's what the narrative is calling them. And just to hammer the point home, a massive man-made constructed blockwork canal. Here's one of the walls, and this is, built. This, it would be built. I'm sure they would say hundreds of years ago, at least. They're not going to say it was built in the 1880s, are they? They'll say, oh, it was there in this, whenever, right? 1300s, 1600s. Like I said, I couldn't find a narrative for it. Look what we have in front here. Just wood. Just these wooden docks. It's the best they could do. Close up of the wall. As you can see, even the walls, completely symmetrical. Don't know what these little bits here are. Look at these, and these are the types of features that we're told will put in, so archers could hide behind them. They try and build this narrative that this was all built for war. But really, you're going to, make them this symmetrical and this perfect if they're just going to get hit by cannons, and you're going to put a house like this behind it, a building. Did they not think the cannonballs might go over? And that doesn't make sense. And look at this one. Dome here, we've got a massive dome here with free energy spires on it. Easily hit by whoever's trying to attack this wall, so that doesn't make sense. Again, no people for starters, but look, this looks like it's been mud flooded, doesn't it? You can see the flow here, all wooden fences. Down here, this fence almost, well, it is half falling over, and then these masonry buildings everywhere. And look at this. We see these a lot, don't we? Just these lone pillars. Look what's in the background, of course, right? No, it's not Washington. It's Moscow, 1883. Nice gatehouse. Again, one person. All right. Old world selfie style. And look at this building. Just ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. Like they can't explain why would they build this? What would the function be? Why would this door be so huge? What did they have to move through there? We're told there were just people and carts, right? Way down here somewhere. So if you were going to build a construction this big, why would you do away with all this usable space? Just to look cool? Well, for someone living in the mud, I'm sure that, having a cool looking building is probably low on their agenda. And just Antiquitech antennas everywhere. And it's just, very, very castle-like, right? But we're in Russia, not England. But looking like the English and European castles that we're told are English and European castles. Again, no people, and a hugely oversized building. And, this whole Greco-Romano portico on the front of it. Don't know what these are. Bits of wood, maybe? That's probably the amount of wood they need to heat this. Unless their cannon might just wield as, the cannon tubey bit, whatever that's called. But if they are, how are they moving them, right? So who knows? Pretty tall lights here again. What are they running off? But I mean, look at the size of these windows. You can see there's a guy here. Look at the size of just these windows. I mean, so imagine how tall this ceiling is inside, right? It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like about 6 of him. That's like a 30-foot ceiling or more. Just because you can, and just because you can't heat it, right? Nice, I like this. Fractal stacking. Double-headed eagle. Of course, a Tartarian symbol. And you can see he's holding the what is it, like the rod of power, I think it's called, the Orbis Crucifix. Is that right? Orbis Crucifix, I think. Yep. The Holy Hand Grenade. And again, just castles in Moscow. Why not? Just to show you how big this build out is. Look at it. And out here, just, nothing. Bit of a garden here. I mean, look at the size of this building compared to these ones in here. I mean, look at these. I mean, that looking very much, right? Looks like it's a octagon or a hexagon, these buildings. So looking like a citadel, but like a huge one, like well oversized to anyone I've ever seen. So I don't know if that's still there. Is that? I think, yeah, that's a tower. If it's a tree, it's a giant tree, but that looks like a tower. And I mean, look at this ridge. Look at them all. And this is why we need denominations, right, in different religions, because they couldn't explain why you would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 or more, churches or mosques or whatever, cathedrals in this small area. So they say, oh, one for Christians, one for Muslims, one for Orthodox, one for blah, blah, blah. One for the giant spaghetti monster. This is Red Square again, I guess. This is St. Basil's. Look at that thing. Look at the size of this statue. Look at the size of this statue. Standing up on a pedestal, which is taller than the lights. The people are way down here. There's a couple. But again, not many, right? Not many people for a city of, let's say, 450,000. Looking pretty empty. This is the tower we saw before with the clock face. It's clearly been added afterwards. I mean, so look at this, just an empty city. So 1880s, this would be just before they started adding the population back in after the reset. So, stay tuned for orphans, I guess. Again, I mean, just ridiculous, right? Look at the size of this tower. Like, what possible use could they have had to build a tower like this? Apart from, maybe it was the land of Rapunzel and they needed somewhere to lock her up, right? But apart from that, like, seriously, back in the 1200s, they needed to build a castle like this just to praise the king. And, you got to remember, everyone who built it, no one got to live in it. Only the kings and the royals got to live in here, right? And their subjects. And again, just look at the size of these buildings. I mean, imagine the effort it would take to just, organize the building of this, rather than not even building it, just to organize all the materials, all the tradesmen, all the plans, everything, structurally and done by a proper engineer so it doesn't collapse. The foundations, it's just, but we're supposed to believe they were just knocked up. Oh, no, if you've got enough people and you've got a king telling them what to do, they can build anything, given enough time. Well, even if they could, they couldn't make them, to last 1,000 years, right? Again, more shots. This canal here, you can see looking pretty overgrown. We've got dirt down the side covered in plants. That's what it looks like. It looks like the original canal we saw before, but it's just, again, been inundated by some kind of mud flow. And out the front here, the other side, you can see. And half buried bollards all down the street and on funny angles. What happened? And of course, no people again. Got one, horse and cart, couple of people here. Really big lights, mud flooded buildings with these windows right on the street level. Huge, huge building, and just, this road is just mud by the looks of it. So it's got a mud skim on it. So when, where did all the people go that built this? Something clearly happened. It's kind of like it should be in Germany. Look at that, double-headed eagles, and a third one up here. Is that a fourth one too? Wow, man, they were everywhere. The double-headed eagle. If you know the work of Martin Liedtke, Flat Earth British, he says that the wings apart mean charge, right? Mean that these Is it bringing in charge, electricity, power of some kind? And again, no people. A couple of people, but not many. And, just showing us a level of tech, right? Horse and very, very basic carts. Look at this one, it's just a flatbed on dirt roads. And in the background, look at this. All right. And look at the size of this building. It's huge. But all built, yeah, back in the 1300s, right? By people living in the mud. Where are all these, houses for the people in the mud, I wonder? They seem to have disappeared. But they could build these buildings to last forever, just not their own houses. That makes sense. Look at these. You can still see the chains here on these Antiquitech antennas. Again, you can see we've got the half moon here, that what we're told is Islamic religion. Underneath, what we're told is the Christian cross. But yeah, chains coming down into the domes, the resonators, and probably connecting up and going all the way down into the ground, right? Because they need to ground it. That's why it's called the ground. Mud flooded streets. And look at these, right? Just look how wide this street is, right? We've got lamps here, all equidistant. So who put all those in, and for what reason? And look at the distance between these two. That's a very wide road for horse and cart or foot traffic, right? Almost looks like there could have been train tracks through here, maybe. This kind of looks a bit like what we're told are train stations, massive dome. But this also looks a bit low in the ground to me. I don't know. And look at the size of this statue here. It's just huge. Why build these things so big, right? There's no need. There's no reason. And of course, no people, just empty streets. And this one is a good one to just see the build out here. We've got castle wall here with our very fairy tale-like castle towers. See, this is the wall along here. We've got arches in here. We've got a man-made canal. Huge buildings. But look at this. Look how big this city is. It's completely built out. Completely built out. You can see how big this building here is. So imagine how big this one must be. And just completely built out. And this is just, this is clearly not all of Moscow, right? So does that look like a city made for, 500,000 people, tops, or a bit less? And they say that, Moscow's population grew by about 100,000 from 1830 to 1880. So we should see a lot of construction, a lot of houses at least, built with technology that reflects the 1830 to 80s. But we don't. Everything is old world, massive, oversized, brick masonry construction, and just so elaborate and ornate. So the story doesn't really make a lot of sense. Look at this wall. If it's just for battle, why are all these arches in here? Are these old doorways? Don't know. They had to fill them in to say, no, it's a wall. Who knows? Because that's what the aqueducts look like, right? All built on pillars with arches in between. So, these could all be retrofitted too. We just don't know how old these are or what their original use was. Definitely wasn't for war like they love to tell us. And here again, just to see the build out and the quality of the buildings here. And again, you can see that's land here in the canal, so it looks like it's been flooded in with mud, with dirt. And fairly vacant of big trees, right? There's a couple of small trees here. Is there a couple there, I think? But, not many trees, right? Maybe that's because it was mud flooded. Church, again, we see this, old world masonry, church that stood for hundreds and hundreds of years, but all they can make now is this little wooden side bit to cover the walkway. And look at these bollards. They look very low in the ground. Windows on ground level, so looking like a mud flutter. This looking very low as well. I mean, it's the same thing, right? This, I mean, yes, Russia, 1883, 1884. Ah, the Tsar's bell. You can see, I mean, look at the size here. This chunk that's fallen off is the height of a, or a lady at least. So what's that, at least 5 foot, probably 5.5. That's a big bell. Where was this hanging? Is this full of mercury? Like, seriously, where would they have hung this? How could they have hung this? Imagine the structure, and some of these we've seen hanging in these massive archways. But why and how did they build whatever was going to hang it? I mean, you would need a lot of engineering, it would have to be ridiculously strong. And how did they cast this? How did they make this bell? I mean, seriously, what is going on? It looks like it's had some repairs here. Look at this. Don't know what that is, but kind of looks like it's been repaired with something. I don't know what this says. Probably tells us. Who knows? Could be added later. Who knows? But I mean, just the size of this, it's just ridiculous. And this is, why I mention the size of the building so often is why would you build this? There's no reason for people like this in the, the 1880s with the narrative we're given or before to build something this big. And how? How did they do it? We never get that story. Okay, so we just go through the rest of these a bit quicker, but it's the same story, right? Massive, massive, fully built out city, empty streets. Clearly, these buildings are full of the features that we see all over the realm in the old world cities. Oversized buildings, massive, massively ornate, temple type structures, just everywhere, right? A few trees here, some decent ones, which is good to see. Okay, here we have another amazing building. Very intricate. Look at all the stairways and wells. It's crazy. Don't know what this is. Looks like these could be bricks maybe, or it could be wood. Don't know. I was thinking wood with snow, but where's the rest of the snow, right? So I don't know. Bricks maybe. Been deconstructing. Just look at this. And up here, I think that's a phoenix, but it kind of looks a bit like the lions that we see, the English lions that are walking. Look at this, built by these people, right? This is the level of tech and dirt roads. So these oversized lamps everywhere that would not be effective. Like they're too far apart to, spread light across this as far as what we're told with the technology, gas lanterns basically. And look at the back here, this ornateness in this doorway, oversized archways, just everywhere. Massively oversized statue. And what is this? What has this got to do with Russia? Right? This is what we're told. They're wearing togas, right? This is what we're told is Greek. They've got their Greek beards looking very Greek in Russia, in Moscow, right in front of what we're told is a Greek building. Crazy. Here you can see just the spires, Antiquitech, towers, domes, just everywhere, and a completely built out city. Look at this. Is this an obelisk? Looks like it's a massive obelisk. Again, the man-made canal walls with, this floating bits of wood for their docks, and this in the background. And what they want us to believe is that the people who built all of this stuff in the background here, all this, were much less advanced and had, less advanced tools, etc., than the people who built this. That's what they want us to believe. I think this is Red Square. Look at this thing. This is still standing. Double-headed eagles again up here. And just look at the intricacy of the facading. I mean, just these bits here. Look at this. Looking very much like some kind of fractal resonator using sacred geometry. These shapes also very similar to what we see on the walls everywhere, and also on the the satellite stars that surround the star cities. And that is the end of our tour through Moscow in 1883. And of course, again, no people. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that little wander through old world Moscow after the reset, but before the repopulation, when they're looking like they've just cleaned it all up and getting it ready for the new inhabitants and the new story, his story. Okay, so thanks for joining me. Please share this video around if you find it interesting. Give me a like, subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications and all that good stuff. And if you would like to support me, you'll find links below. There's t-shirts, AutoDidactic t-shirts, tuning forks to help you tune in. And there's even some books to help you learn to live more self-sufficiently. So check them all out. And if you like, you can support me by purchasing one. All right, guys, have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload.
Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins.